Welcome to the History Story Podcast. Buckle up, history buffs, because today we're hitting a historic road trip, that is, and we're going all the way to the chilly coast of Nova Scotia. It's October 1967.
Ooh, sounds chilly already.
Yeah, but trust me, this is going to warm you right up. We're leaving the textbooks behind and diving headfirst into a story that's, well, it's just plain bizarre. We're talking flashing lights, a mysterious crash right into the sea, and questions, big questions, that just won't quit. This isn't about kings and queens or battles. It's about something that makes you question, what we really know about the world, about what's out there.
Yeah, it's a real head-scratcher. We're not just rehashing old news. We're digging into a real-deal mystery, one that's, well, it's officially unsolved.
Officially unsolved, that's right. So picture this, okay? It's a dark night, cold, right on the coast of this little fishing village called Shag Harbour. You can almost smell that salty air, feel that Cold War tension hanging heavy in the air. UFOs were like all the rage back then, right?
Oh yeah, big time.
And then out of nowhere, boom, the sky lights up. But not like anything anyone's ever seen before.
What really grabs you right off the bat is how many people saw this thing. And I mean, saw it separately, on their own, not just, one person's story.
Totally. We're talking multiple groups of folks just going about their business, and they all see these bright lights flashing amber and orange. And the way they were moving, not like any plane they'd ever seen before. One group, actually, including a guy named Laurie Wickens, they guessed this thing was massive, like 60 feet long. And get this, they saw it drop, like straight down at this sharp angle right into the water.
And these weren't just quick glances either, right? Other people around Shag Harbour, they saw these strange lights too, doing all sorts of crazy maneuvers before heading towards the harbor. It's like when you have that many people seeing the same thing from different spots, you gotta take it seriously.
You gotta take it seriously, for sure. And it wasn't just what they saw either. Some folks said they heard these whistling sounds and then, bam, a huge bang. Or some said it was more like a whoosh. And hold on, it gets even weirder. Some local fishermen, they were out on the water, and they reported seeing this lit-up thing just floating there before it sank.
Which is wild, right? Like, it means whatever this was, it wasn't just lights in the sky. It was a solid something that ended up underwater.
A solid something, yeah. So naturally, everyone's thinking, okay, crash plane, right? The RCMP get called in, and one of the officers, Constable Ron Pond, he gets to the scene, and what he sees, well, that's a key part of this whole story. He sees this yellowish light out on the water about half a mile from shore.
And keep in mind, these are trained police officers, right? Their job is to be observant, to report things accurately. So when they see something like this, it carries a lot of weight.
No doubt. So they're not messing around. They grab a fishing boat, head out with some of the fishermen to check it out. And as they get closer to this light, it just vanishes, sinks right under the surface.
Yeah.
And in its place, there's a huge patch of thick, yellowish foam. We're talking like 80 feet wide and half a mile long.
And this wasn't your run-of-the-mill sea foam either, right? People described it as clumpy, almost like it had a faint sulfur smell. Some even said it glowed a bit. Not your typical ocean stuff?
Definitely not. So by now, it's pretty clear this isn't your average plane crash. The RCMP, they're stumped, so they call in the big guns, the Coast Guard, and get this, Navy divers. They spend 3 whole days searching that harbor, top to bottom.
And here's where things get really, really mysterious. Even after this huge search effort, they found absolutely nothing. No plane parts, no bodies, no oil slick, not even a dent in the seabed. Just mud. And that weird foam, it just hung around.
Yeah, that foam is a real wild card. And to make things even more confusing, no one reported a missing plane in the area. It wasn't like they were searching for a specific aircraft. And, get this, there are NORAD logs from that night that show an unknown object off the coast.
Whoa. That NORAD thing, that's a game changer. I mean, now we're not just talking eyewitnesses, we're talking radar. That means something was definitely there.
Something is there, no doubt. So after all that searching, all those experts, what's the official conclusion? Unknown origin, case closed. Or, well, not closed, more like labeled unsolved. And that's really what makes this historic road trip so fascinating, that lack of an answer. Why are we still talking about this 50-plus years later? Well, think about it. It was 1967. The Cold War was a very real thing. Everyone was suspicious, on edge.
Yeah, and Nova Scotia, with all its military bases, would have been a pretty sensitive spot. Any unidentified anything showing up there would have set off alarm bells.
Big time. And at the same time, you had the space race going on, all these crazy technological advances. But as this incident shows, we didn't have it all figured out. We didn't know everything about what was up in the sky or down in the ocean. Plus, everyone was obsessed with UFOs back then. Project Blue Book was still in full swing.
Right, so you've got global tensions, new tech, and a public that's prime for, well, prime for the possibility of something truly strange happening. It was the perfect recipe for a story like this to take hold.
It's like everything lined up for a good mystery. And that's why the initial reaction from the authorities was so serious. I mean, the RCMP, the Rescue Coordination Center, the Navy, they all jumped in right away. This wasn't just brushed off as some kooky story.
And the fact that they brought in Navy divers for 3 days, no less, and still found nothing, it just makes it all the more intriguing. Clearly, they thought something serious had gone down.
Absolutely. And the media, they were all over it at first. Headlines about a strange object crashing. But then the search comes up empty, everyone goes quiet, and the story sort of fades away.
But for the people of Shag Harbour, it didn't fade. It became part of their story, something they talked about, remember.
Part of their history, yeah. And today, the Shag Harbour incident is considered a pretty major event in Canadian UFO history. It's famous for its reliable witnesses, for the fact that an official investigation couldn't explain it, and for that strange foam, that physical evidence that just wouldn't go away. It's a case where the authorities hit a wall, plain and simple.
A real dead end.
So let's dive into some of the theories, the explanations people have come up with for what might have happened that night. Now, we're just exploring here, not saying anyone is right or wrong. One of the first ideas, of course, was maybe it was just a plane or a meteor, something like that.
Makes sense, right? Something falling from the sky.
Exactly. But, like we said, no missing planes. And the way people describe the lights, the flashing, the controlled descent, that's not how planes or meteors usually behave. Plus, that NORAD data, it didn't match any known air traffic. And then there's that foam.
That foam is the real curveball. What kind of normal plane crash or meteor creates something like that?
Exactly. So another theory, and this makes sense given the whole Cold War situation, is that it was some kind of secret military project, maybe American, maybe Soviet.
That could explain why everyone clammed up, why there's no information. If it was some super secret tech that went wrong, they'd want to keep it hush-hush.
Makes sense. And maybe that explains the weird lights, the way it moved. Maybe it was some super advanced plane or an early drone or something.
But even then, it's hard to explain that controlled descent at that angle. And again, what kind of tech from back then would leave behind that foam?
Yeah, the foam is the big question mark. And then, of course, there's the theory that a lot of people find the most interesting: aliens.
I mean, when you think about it, the time period, the weird lights, the silent movement, the lack of wreckage, it's not hard to see why some people jump to that conclusion. It ticks a lot of the classic UFO boxes.
Yeah. It does. The idea is that maybe it was a spacecraft, maybe damaged, maybe using the ocean for something, like, I don't know, maybe as fuel or to hide, who knows. And the foam, well, maybe it was some kind of byproduct of alien tech, something we don't understand.
It fits the whole UFO craze that was going on, and it explains the sheer strangeness of it all. But of course, we got to be realistic. There's no proof, no smoking gun.
No smoking ray gun, right? Now, there's a twist to the alien theory that adds a whole other dimension. Underwater stuff, what they call USOs, unidentified submerged objects.
This is where the work of researchers like Don Ledger and Chris Stiles comes in. They've been digging up eyewitness accounts and bits and pieces of evidence that suggest maybe there was a second object involved.
So the theory goes like this. After the first thing goes into the water, there's another object that's tracked moving underwater, maybe towards a Navy base in Shelburne, not too far from Shag Harbour.
Mind blown. That would mean there was a whole other part of this event happening underwater. Maybe a rendezvous, maybe a recovery operation, maybe the first object could even move both in the air and underwater. It also adds to the idea that the military might have been involved somehow, but in a different way.
But again, this is mostly speculation. It's based on what people said they saw and how they interpret the limited data we have.
Yeah.
Now, there's also the more skeptical view, which is that it was all just a natural phenomenon, or even mass hysteria, people getting caught up in the hype.
The idea here is that maybe it was just weird weather or swamp gas or something natural that people misinterpreted. And because everyone was talking about UFOs, maybe they, exaggerated what they saw without meaning to.
But like we've talked about, that doesn't really explain everything. It doesn't explain the consistent reports from all those different people, the RCMP seeing the light, the NORAD data, how long the whole thing lasted, the specific lights, the controlled descent, and of course that crazy foam. It's just, it doesn't quite fit.
Too many pieces don't add up.
Right. So even after all these years, all these theories, the Shag Harbour incident remains a mystery, and that mystery has left its mark.
Definitely. It's become part of the story of Shag Harbour, part of who they are.
They've even got a Shag Harbour Incident Society, and they run an interpretive center. People can go there, learn about the event, see exhibits, read first-hand accounts, even look at official documents. And get this, they have a yearly UFO festival.
Pretty cool, huh? It's amazing how this one event has become such a big thing for them, something they're known for, something that attracts people who love a good mystery.
It's become part of their identity.
Yeah.
And it's not just a local thing. The Shag Harbour incident is a big deal in Canadian UFO lore. It comes up all the time when people talk about unexplained stuff in Canada.
It's a classic case, well documented, and it keeps people talking, keeps them investigating.
And researchers are still on the case, people like Don Ledger and Chris Stiles. They've been digging up more witness accounts and even some official documents through those, what do they call them, Freedom of Information Act requests, focusing on that whole USO angle.
They're keeping the story alive, finding new details, new angles. It's like the mystery keeps getting deeper.
And check this out. In 2019, the Royal Canadian Mint, they made a commemorative coin about the Shag Harbour incident. It even has a glow-in-the-dark UFO on it.
No way! That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, it's not the government saying, hey, aliens exist, but it shows how important this event has become in Canadian culture.
A cultural touchstone.
So in the end, the Shag Harbour incident is a powerful example of an event that we just can't explain, even with all our science and technology. It makes you think about what we don't know, about what might be out there.
Makes you realize we don't have all the answers.
Now, let's geek out for a minute and dig into some of the really juicy details, the stuff that makes this story even weirder. We talked about the NORAD confirmation, which is huge. They actually tracked something on radar at the same time people were seeing those lights. That's more than just people's stories. That's military tech backing it up.
Yeah, that's the thing. Radar data, that's objective. It means something was there. It's hard to argue with that.
And then there's that foam, that weird yellow stuff. Everyone who saw it said it was unlike anything they'd ever seen. They said it was hard to collect, like it was almost resisting them. Some people even said it glowed a little. And the fact that they supposedly took samples and never released the results, that just adds to the mystery.
It's like, what did they find? Why keep it a secret?
Right. And the fact that all those different people who didn't know each other, they all described the same basic thing. The flashing lights, the silent movement, the way it went down into the water, that can't be just a coincidence.
It's too specific to be just a bunch of people making stuff up.
And then you've got Constable Ron Pond, the RCMP officer. He always insisted that he saw something real out there that night. And he was a cop, a trained observer. That lends a lot of credibility to the story.
He was there. He saw it with his own eyes.
And then there are the rumors about the Navy divers. Officially, they found nothing. But people whisper, you know, what did they really see? What were they told to say? Did they find something down there that they weren't allowed to talk about?
It's hard not to wonder when you don't have all the facts.
And remember that theory about a second object underwater? That one going towards the Navy base in Shelburne? That just throws another wrench into the whole thing. If it's true, it means there was more going on than we know. Maybe even something coordinated, something involving the military.
A whole underwater side to the story.
And researchers have actually gotten their hands on some official documents, RCMP reports, Department of National Defense memos, Coast Guard logs. Some parts are blacked out, but they confirm that the events happened, that there was an investigation, and that they officially couldn't explain it. It's all there in black and white.
Official proof that it wasn't just a tall tale.
And one more super important thing. They checked all the records, and no planes were reported missing that night. So whatever went down in Shag Harbour, it wasn't a plane. And that brings us back to the big question. If it wasn't a plane, then what was it?
The million-dollar question.
So here we are, at the end of our historic road trip. What really happened in Shag Harbour in October 1967. Secret experiment. Alien visitors. Something else entirely. We don't know for sure, but the evidence, even though it's strange and incomplete, it points to something real, something unexplained. A real mystery, one that still hasn't been solved.
It's a reminder that there are still things out there that we just don't understand.
It makes you think, doesn't it? An event that's officially documented, and we still have no idea what it was. What does that say about how much we know about the world, about what might be possible? Maybe the best stories are the ones that leave us with more questions than answers.
The ones that make us question everything.
If this has got your curiosity going, you should definitely check out the Shag Harbour Incident Society. And there are tons of history books and uncovered sources out there that dive deep into this event. You might just find yourself looking at the night sky and maybe even the ocean with a whole new sense of wonder.
Who knows what's out there?
Thanks for joining us on this historic road trip. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep looking up.